Hi, class. Welcome to week 9. We are almost done, on our way on out. I hope you're all doing well and surviving this daylight savings time change. It's a little rough this morning. Um, so I'm going to be talking about chapters 3 and 4 from our new textbook that we're looking at. So we're just be talking about learning legal and ethical issues. This has been probably lightly mentioned before, but as we know in group, you're going to be going over limits of confidentiality, which is harm to self, others, elder abuse, or child abuse is not okay in group either. So if somebody brings those things up, we do have limits of confidentiality in regards to those subjects. But we also have to remember too that confidentiality looks a little different in a group because now we're talking about more than one person being with you in a setting. And it's requiring other people in your group to also keep confidentiality. That can be kind of unique because we don't know each other. We don't trust each other yet. And so that's important to stress when you start going over the group paperwork, group rules, things of that nature. We don't talk about group to other people outside of the group. Even though people may never know each other or ever run into each other, it's just out of respect for the nature of the group and what's taking place. And we want people to fully be able to trust. We want people to be able to trust and open up. And if they feel like their information is going to get spread everywhere, that's going to cause people to shut down. And so we really want to be mindful of that and stress that with group members. And say that may be a reason why someone isn't allowed to be in the group anymore because they betrayed someone's trust, things of that nature. And so it's important that group members understand that you go over group rules, that you go over your consents, things of that nature, your first session. If you're kind of an open group, that might be something you do each week because you might get new members each week. So it's important to reiterate those things so that people don't feel uncomfortable, that they know the boundaries. I think boundaries are important and a lot of people don't understand them. And so just making sure that we are clear about expectations. Group is something like, unless it's an involuntary group, meaning like anger management or something court mandated, group is something that people can come and go, but there may be structure and boundaries within your group that doesn't allow people just to come and go. So to be mindful of that is really important. And so as a group leader, you need to know maybe what the boundaries are for certain, right? So that you can instruct people on, hey, you've crossed a boundary. If you're not going to show up ever and this group is only 8 weeks, then you really can't pass this group if you need it for court because you need to be at all 8 sessions or whatever it may be. So you really need to understand the structure, know the boundaries of the group so that you can be clear to handle it in the way that is appropriate. We can't hold people hostage. That's not the nature of therapy. And so, it's just something to be mindful of. There's a lot of ethical things that people come across maybe in a group setting. There's people that misuse power. There's a lot of self-disclosure, confidentiality, confrontation that can happen. And so we just want to be mindful of those things. Again, being mindful to remind group members about confidentiality is really important. And the cost that could have as a leader. You need to be aware of your own values and how they influence the group. And we need to be aware of that even in therapy in general. Like, even though I have certain values, my values don't apply to all people, and not all people may appreciate my values or respect my values or agree with my values. And so just because those are my values doesn't mean they have to be everybody's. And so making sure that we're mindful of that and we're aware of the lens that we're putting out there. We're supposed to assist members in meeting therapeutic goals. We can't make anybody do those things. And we have to make sure it's consistent with the members' worldview. Group members have the task of clarifying their own values and making informed choices. And we have to make sure that, we're supportive in that, of course, if it's appropriate, legal, and ethical of all those things. We just have to make sure that we're aware of legal and ethical things, like whether it be in an individual setting, a group setting, that we're very mindful of those things. because again, like that can cause one, there to be a problem for the supervisor that you may have, their license, or for your own. Also, too, we want people to feel comfortable and thrive in group, and it really could be such a cathartic experience. And I think if we don't hold down the fort, especially with confidentiality, I think it's really going to limit how much people share, how much self-disclosure there is, how much vulnerability there is. It's really going to, limit that. And so we want to really make sure we rein in people, we make it clear, we set firm boundaries, the ground rules that we have, we stick to them so that people take us seriously. Like even in classroom management, right? With like, let's say high school kids, some of you may be teachers, that if you don't have good classroom management, your class is going to take over. And that's the same with a group. If you don't have good group management as a leader, your group is going to take over, or you're going to have a few of those people that are just going to take over because that's just the kind of people that they are. So making sure that you, your co-leader, potentially have good management is going to be super important. And so, one approach, obviously to group and to all therapy is theory. And we want to be mindful that theory is a roadmap. It's kind of helps you lay out the path that you may go. So you have to be flexible, though, still within the roadmap to know that, you're dealing with people and situations that arise that you can't plan. So being mindful that these things may happen and to not be discouraged by them. But also like to have a plan isn't a bad thing either. We just have to be, like I think they give the example, a plane even has a map, right? But if there's going to be bad weather, you might have to have alternate routes, things of that nature. So just being mindful of that. And there's a lot of different ways to achieving great integration of a group, but it's just, you're going to need to find a way that works best for you, the material that you're using, the topic that you have. Combining the following 3 domains can help you with a really strong group. The cognitive domain focuses on the thinking and the thought process. The affective domain emphasizes the feelings, and the behavioral domain entails acting and doing, right? Which that's, I think, how you have true change, right? It affects you cognitively, behaviorally, emotionally. So maybe the whole person is making the change versus just like, oh, that sounds nice, but I'm not doing anything about it. I think even in our spiritual life, right, we can have conviction, but what good is conviction without a behavior change? And that's really challenging, right? That's really, really challenging. Techniques are leader interventions, right? And so there's a lot of different technique you can use in group. You could have them that be a way of them taking turns to work on listening skills. You might have breathing techniques. Different things of that nature. You might have a video that brings up some things as a way of stirring up some level of how to have an intervention. There's a lot of different things you can do that are effective. I think it's just implementing them, right? We want to make sure that they have purpose, where there's a point to them, that your members trust you. Like even with closing your eyes, that's kind of a hard thing to do when you just met someone, right? So just making sure the timing of things is appropriate, it makes sense. Again, it's valid, it makes sense with the group. All dimensions, right? Consider all dimensions of the group, like who's in your group, the type of people in your group, again, the topic of the group, what might and taking all those things into consideration, cultural dynamics of the group will help you to navigate if something is probably going to be effective or not. So just being mindful of that is going to be really important. And validate any experiences that they've had, or feelings that they may have based on certain situations. We understanding that you yourself, I think Yalam talked about the incest group he led, and here he's in there with a bunch of women, and he's a man, and so he probably identifies a lot as the perpetrator just because he's a man, not that he is a perpetrator, but you know what I mean. So just understanding you could be part of a group and be maybe very triggering for someone, and so just being aware of that, addressing it, not pretending like it's not there, I think is good, because we have to work through discomfort. And I think that's where a lot of growth can happen sometimes, even for us as clinicians. When we push through an uncomfortable situation, we're like, wow, that actually wasn't that bad. That's good growth, assuming it's not causing us harm, or, all those kinds of things. There's a lot, there's a psychodynamic approach, a cognitive behavioral approach with group. experiential, that's like Virginia Satir, Gestalt, um, you know, looking at like anxiety being part of the human condition. Death is also a basic human condition. Understanding the reality of our mortality, all those different kinds of things. So you could take that kind of approach with group. You could take a cognitive behavioral approach with group as far as theory is concerned. You could even do a postmodern approach, solution focused. So it's kind of more like focused on like how we're going to, move forward. Again, some of you are going to go to facilities where they're going to have it be a very specific way. Others of you may have more flexibility, and you might get to choose what you would like to do with your group. But no matter what you do with theory, I think it's really important, assuming you have a choice, right, is that you pick a theory that works really well with who you are as a clinician, that works really well with your personality type, that's very natural, so you're not having to think so hard about it in the midst of trying to implement it. I think sometimes when it's really unnatural for us because of the nature of a theory, we can get caught up in that, and then we miss some things because we are, trying to do something just right or whatever that may look like for you. And so I really do challenge you to look at that, to think about that, because it's important. I think a theory that fits you and your personality type is really important. Okay, class. Well, I look forward to continue to lead you in this direction with the second text. I hope you're enjoying it. Keep up your hard work. We're almost done. Not that many more weeks left. I think we have, after this week, I think we're four more to go, which is crazy that the semester is almost over. So I wish you all the best. Have a good week. I hope you had a good spring break too.